Hi everyone, good afternoon. My name is Savannah Latif, Technology Enhanced Learning Manager at the University of Sheffield, and I'm delighted to be here today to talk to you about some of the things that we've been doing at the university to challenge some of those perceptions towards digital learning and raise the baseline standards. I also have to just say thank you for bearing with to the end of the day. I know it's been a long day for most people, but I'm going to do my best to keep to time. So before I start talking to you about some of the things that we've been doing at the university, just wanted to begin by talking about some of the barriers to the adoption of digital within our institutions. And I really like this categorisation by Birch and Burnett. They talk about institutional barriers, so that can be a lack of institutional support for the digital agenda. It could also be a lack of funding or a shared understanding across different departments within an institution. Then there's the pedagogical, so that's scepticism towards the learning value that a technology or an initiative can offer to learning and teaching. And then there's those individual barriers, so often we'll hear that people don't have the time to do things. We could say it's a perceived lack of time. There could be a lack of rewards and recognition. And then we heard Francis Bell talk earlier about this idea of a resistance to change as well. So on the topic of resistance to change, I mean, it's a big Pandora's box, really. Why do people resist change? I've listed a few things here, but by no means is this list exhaustive. So just to pick out a couple of points, the reason good could be because it's not clear why we're introducing a change, or it could be that it's not clear how we're going to actually achieve that change. And then we have to think about change overload. Oftentimes we'll have our own agenda that we're trying to promote, whereas from an academic point of view, they may have lots of different agendas being thrown at them. So hopefully that's things that we're all quite familiar with. Okay, let's talk a bit about enablers now. So the UCISA, this is 4 points from the UCISA 2016 TEL survey. So the latest survey on technology enhanced learning, I assume most people will already be aware of it, but it asks institutions the question about the different things that enable the adoption of technology as part of teaching and learning, and these are some of the points that were mentioned. But I think it's fair to say that some of these things will work for some people, but others won't for others. So it might sound a bit cliche if I say one size doesn't fit all, but I think it's fair to say that. So the two things that I'm going to talk to you about what we've been doing at the University of Sheffield, apologies if you already know about any of these, but one of them is Tellfest. I'll explain about that in a bit. And another is about how we worked with students around our adoption of the VLE. So to begin with, to talk about Tellfest, then. So Tellfest is a week, stands for Technology Enhanced Learning Festival. It's a week-long event that we introduced to the institution in 2014, and it's aimed at academic staff. And the reason we introduced it to the institution is because we wanted to really shout about technology enhanced learning. We wanted to bring together all the different activity happening across the institution. So my team is a technology enhanced learning team, and of course we do a lot of staff development around TEL, but there are also a number of other departments that do as well. So the library, for instance, do a lot to promote the agenda. And obviously there's lots of academics actually using the technology within their practice. So we wanted to bring that together and enable people to share what they were doing. From the offset, we made sure that there was a variety of different sessions that were delivered. So there's the whole case studies, show and tell. We encourage a bit of debate in there as well. So, for instance, when we moved into opt-out for lecture capture, we invited people with different opinions to talk about their perceptions of that. We're very keen that we always focus on both the why and the how. So oftentimes I think we forget that people don't have the skills to actually do this. So we do offer those sort of drop-in sessions throughout the week, and also bite-sized sessions as well to go through the actual practicalities. The agenda is very varied, so we try to appeal to those that are new to the institution or new to TEL in general. So we do have sessions like Introduction to VLE, but then that agenda varies straight through to the possibilities of virtual reality, let's say. From the offset, we were sponsored by the Vice President for Education, and that's been really important in spreading the value of the event. We tried to have a bit of fun as well. So the second to last picture there is of Room 101. So our Vice President for Education played the host of a Room 101 where academics put their technology pet hates into Room 101. Faculty Fortune, is a session that we had last year. So we used surveys that we had with staff and students. We had a team of students versus a team of academics, and we also had the audience participating as well. And we in the background there's sweets, because we always give people sweets, so we fill them full of sugar to make them enthusiastic about digital learning. And I think that informal environment is something that we hear time and time again that people like about Tellfest. In the last picture is of Chris Stokes, our academic lead for digital learning, and he refers to it as the cheeky version of the Teaching and Learning Conference. So we carried out some research to look at the impact of Tellfest. And one of the things that came out of it was the power of the community that's developed. So people talked about how in their own practice they felt quite isolated, and they wouldn't always go to people down the corridor to talk. So through Tellfest they met new people who were enthusiastic about similar agendas to them. We also heard people talk about how they invited presenters to speak to their departments as well. And professional staff talked about the value of working with academics and being able to find academics who were interested in maybe trialling new initiatives, whereas academics talked about the power of meeting professional staff who could actually help them make those ideas come to fruition. Now I didn't take this picture with me, so I didn't take my Tellfest bag on a beach, but somebody did, and I thought I'd share this picture. But I think people also talked about the idea of it being a safe place to learn. So fear of failure is one of the reasons people don't always adopt to technology-enhanced learning. And we give people that opportunity. So for instance, when we run sessions on things like flipped learning, we make sure we use that technology as part of the teaching, so people also get to experience technology as the students would. Over the years, we've enhanced Tellfest. This table shows us how the number of people attending has grown over the years. So when we ran our initial one, we had 160 people. 4 years later, we found about 400 people attended. We've always been very flexible with Tellfest. We encourage people to attend the sessions that are applicable to their practice. So we don't expect them to attend the whole week, although there are some people that do, and we praise their dedication. On average, people attend about 9 sessions, which probably equates to a day and a half of sessions. The agenda's really matured over time as well, and I think it shows how our institution's maturing. This year we had about 70 submissions. I don't know how brilliant that is, but it felt brilliant for us because it doubled from last year. So we can see that improvement, more people are sharing what they're doing, and we're seeing that change within our institution. As part of the research, with the people that took part of the research, we found that 81% of people talked about how they changed their practice as a result of attending Tellfest and through the connections they made, and 69% generated new ideas. Just to say as well that this year we opened up the call for submissions for Tellfest to external institutions as well, and we're also inviting external people to attend. So if you'd like to attend, or you think your colleagues would value from attending, you'd just like to see the way we do things at Sheffield, you're more than welcome to do so, and the form is out now, so you can book now. So Tellfest happens once throughout a year, and we also run what we call our Tellfest reunions. So it's just an opportunity to get these enthusiastic people together again throughout the year. But as well as that, we have what we call our digital commons at the university. So we run monthly events, and usually in the format of workshops throughout the year. And we also run what we call a digital retreat. So that's a 2-day event where academics can actually bid to take part in this. And they work in a group with we assign them to different learning technologists, different people from the library, and maybe our creative media team, to help them in actually making their or digital dreams come to life, I guess. So you can find out a bit more about Tellfest from this link here. There's also, I've written a journal paper on it. If you're really enthusiastic, you can find the ins and outs of the impact there. And as I mentioned, we are open to other institutions as well. So I'll tweet this link out as well for those that are interested. So the next thing I wanted to talk to you about is the idea of listening to students. And it's great to have heard, whilst I've been here today, how so many other people are working with students to make things happen. And so recently, or maybe about 2 years ago, this project started, but we actually carried out a VLE review, and what we ended up focusing on mainly was a change to our VLE policy. So to put things in context for you, at the University of Sheffield, we've been using Blackboard and WebCT Vista before that for over 10 years. And our question, which we already knew the answer was, are we making the most of the VLE? And the answer was no, we weren't. We were quite aware that things needed to improve. But we decided to, at an institutional level, carry out a project that looked at enhancing this. So to do this, we carried out staff consultation. We looked at sector-wide practice. We looked at institutional priorities, but the part I want to focus on is the work that we did with our students. Well, because in honesty, our students were the ones that drove the agenda here, and for any of you who are involved with the VLE, you probably won't be surprised when I tell you the biggest issue that the students talked about was this idea of consistency. So they talked about how difficult it was to find information, and how when the VLE was used well, it was brilliant, but it wasn't always so easy to use or find things in. And things weren't where they'd expect them to be as well. So a lot around actually usability of the site. In terms of our limitations of the findings from our students, we did find that they were able to comment on obviously their current practice, but when we asked them about maybe new features they would like within the VLE that they hadn't experienced before, they weren't able to give us as much insight. We worked with the student education officer at the time to carry out an institutional-wide survey, and this led to a big change in policy. So we actually decided to introduce templates in our institution, whereas I know the previous talker didn't. We also introduced a minimum guidance checklist, so that was what we expected a course to look like. I should say the templates are quite flexible. They are supposed to be changed to how teaching is done, rather than us trying to prescribe the way people teach. And we moved away from no longer having a rollover. So every year our institution would roll over content from one year to another, but what we found is that actually made it more difficult for people to update their module, and that was from the feedback from the staff consultation. So it was a difficult message to pass on, which is why we created a video. This is just a screenshot of Ali Day, who was our student education officer at the time, and she was able to help us actually explain the rationale for doing this, because it's hard for us obviously to pass that message on. We also had students acting in the video, so they actually said some of the quotes that we had got from the survey, and I'll tweet a link to that as well. So in terms of getting the students' message out there, we ran, as well as having the video that we spread across the university, we did train-the-trainer sessions for our learning technologists. So at our institution, as well as having a central learning technologist team, we have learning technologists spread throughout the university, and we felt it was important that we're giving out the same message. So we were able to work together to develop the workshops that we delivered to offer a more consistent message. We had a roadshow, so we went round to all the different campuses. We went to faculty learning and teaching committees, and we would often play this video with us as well. And it really did help us, once again, that we had that institutional support. So as others have mentioned, we recruited some student ambassadors. So we actually only had 3, but they were brilliant in the sense that they trained people how to use the VLE. So we gave them training. We made sure that they were experts really in the whole process and with around the use of the VLE. And it frustrated them even more when they learned how easy it was to use, ironically. They offered one-to-one support, and they also carried out an evaluation of the impact of the refresh process, as we called it. I should say on the previous slide, this is our branding that we had. So we had at Tellfest, we gave people refresh water bottles, and we also kept with the sweets theme and had some refresher sweets as well. So again, one of our student ambassadors was great in that she took part in a panel discussion that we had at Tellfest as well. So we had a discussion over the whole VLE minimum standards and whether we should even be thinking about it within our institution. And she was able to really give that informed opinion from a student perspective, because the student ambassadors had developed such an in-depth knowledge of the whole process. And overall, I mean, we just got lots of positive feedback from them. You know, people were actually emailing us just to say how great that support that they were given, that they had given them. And from some of the evaluation that they carried out, they looked at a sample of courses from the year before, compared it with a sample of courses this year, and they saw that overall there was a 68 improvement. Now, I would like to be standing here saying there's 100% improvement, but I guess change happens over time, and it's something that we're going to keep working on to meet those meet the targets that we want to see within our institution. So some of the things I've talked about and some of the reasons, apart from my inability to spell on those slides, but some of the reasons that I think these projects worked is because one of them being that we had that institutional buy-in from the start, and I think that really helped us move those initiatives forward. I think being flexible in the delivery of what we're doing. So whilst we run Tellfest, we run events throughout the year, and with Tellfest itself, it's got a flexible agenda, and with the work we did with promoting Refresh, we were flexible as well. With both Tellfest and the Refresh project, we looked at evaluating the impact of what we were doing, and that enabled us to really improve both the staff development that we deliver and the types of sessions we deliver. And I think that wide promotion as well, and sort of sticking at it, because when we first ran our first Tellfest, we were pleased to see that 160 people, and now and then last year pleased to see 400, and this year we're hoping for even more. So I think sticking at it, developing that brand, that reputation for what we're doing is really, really important too. So I'm just really pleased that I've stuck to time. Here are a list of all the links that I've talked about today. I'm hoping that the tweets that I scheduled have been going out there as well. Yeah, good. Yeah, I feel quite pleased with myself. So enhancing my own digital capability skills today. So I'm happy to take any questions, because I do think we've got a few minutes, so we can move on to the next session. I'll go here first.
Your student ambassadors,
Yes.
They train staff and students?
They've just trained staff actually, yeah, because it's staff who are going through the process. So they trained staff, they gave them one-to-one support on how to use, and how to go through the actual process. And they were able to explain the rationale for doing so as well.
Was there issues around the security of data?
We gave them limited accounts actually, so there was limitations with what they could do. They couldn't enrol on a course themselves, they had to be given temporary access to do so, so they couldn't see any student data. Yeah, we did think about that quite a bit, I think.
Pass that down.
Hi there, thank you. What an awkward place to sit to get the microphone. I'm right in thinking you did a sort of VLE review without changing your fundamental VLE.
Yeah,
I think that's
right.
quite unusual, as people often go into this think with the mindset of what new product shall we get.
That's right.
So
yeah.
could you just elaborate on that a bit, or the reactions you got and how you sort of got that approach agreed?
Well, when we carried out our review, it was clear that there was more that we needed to do with the use of our current VLE, so we weren't optimally using it. Now, we could have at that point said, right, let's change VLE, but we decided we needed to get people up to the level where they can actually, or at least utilising our VLE to a level, to a certain standard. So that was our approach, and I think that when you change VLEs, you do make a big campaign over it, you shout about it, and I think we tried to do that without changing VLEs, and we're pleased to have seen some improvement.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? No? Oh, there's one at the front.
Let's get
There you go.
I was just wondering if there was any sort of pressure to do things faster for impact or for embedding in the change that you were looking to seek to.
And to do anything faster, how do you mean by that, sorry?
One of the things I've noted in many of the universities is the desire, and rightly so, to be flexible and to move at the pace at which academics and or students and or professional staff are ready to go. Is there ever I guess maybe a different agenda to make these things happen faster, to develop these skills and to see progress faster than what's occurring maybe on the ground and within the teams that you're supporting?
I think from our consultation with students from the VLE project, I think it came out really clearly that there was a big issue, and they offered us evidence. So, we as a central team really wanted to push that agenda forward, because I guess it gets a bit frustrating when you know things can be better. So perhaps there was a push from us, but I don't think there was necessarily a push, say, a level higher than that. I think we really wanted to be able to see those changes, and I guess it impacts job satisfaction almost when you're not seeing that progression take place. Thank you.